So I'm calling this Whose Line Is It Anyway? And this is a quick icebreaker. I'll give it to you in just a second. The first edition of The Accidental Salesperson came out in 2000. And I had all these movie references, City Slickers and The Accidental Tourist and Craft. And when are you hearing me okay? Mm-hmm. I just got a message here. Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good. And when I did the second edition, my editor said, "Hey, Chris, it's 2012. You got to get rid of those references. Anybody born after 1980 won't know any of those movies." And so I said, "Okay." I took all those references out and wrote some extra chapters for the book. But I just decided to update my stuff. And the icebreaker is the best movie lines of 2022. I love movie lines, and I was Googling best movie lines of 2022. And my favorite best movie line, and all you have to do is tell me who said it and what was the movie. And you'll win nothing except you'll be the smartest person in the webinar. If I can't dance, I can't sing.
I don't know. Who goes into movies?
Dick Harlow.
Dick Harlow didn't say that.
Don't have a clue.
It's on, I mean, it's streaming. Come on. Academy Award nominee.
Oh, that helps.
Austin Butler in Elvis.
Yeah. Oh, and I even saw that.
If I can't dance, I can't sing. Okay. So, and that takes me to a story. This is Ernst Townsend Hall at Baldwin Wallace University, where I went to school. And in 1972, I was taking my senior speech class.
You're hearing it. I don't know if I can get you in. Well, no, I lost it.
It's got a mute,
Okay.
I think.
Do a mute. I was getting ready to do my senior speech. I majored in political science, but I had a speech and business minors. So this is my dorm. And in my dorm, I had that picture of Raquel Welch. It wasn't quite that nice. It was in black and white. But my other picture was, of course, Elvis, because I was a huge Elvis fan. I went to every Elvis movie. I loved Elvis Presley at the time, and I was always a fan. Anyway, this is where I made my senior speech, and Professor Dee Peters said, your subject matter is going to be my philosophy of life. And you got 20 minutes to speak to the class, my philosophy of life, no notes. And I love speech class. And I thought about this long and hard. And I said, my speech is going to be life is one big Elvis Presley movie. Life is like one big Elvis Presley movie. And I get up in front of the class and I said, look, this is my philosophy of life. It's like one big Elvis Presley movie. There's a line for every situation. And the thing about an Elvis Presley movie, whenever something happened, Elvis had the line ready to go, like this one in Viva Las Vegas. Of course, he's a mechanic and a race car driver.
Well, you have made some changes, haven't you?
I got my little secrets.
Yeah, I can tell.
Can you help me, please?
Can we help you? Yes, ma'am.
Well, then I'd like you to check my motor. It whistles.
I don't blame it.
What did you say?
Oh, forgive my friend, miss. He's very young. We'll be very happy to check your motor.
I don't blame it. Anyway, that's a line for every situation. And I went through 3 or 4 movies worth of lines in front of the class. I won't bore you with that. But there's a song for every situation, too. Great thing about an Elvis Presley movie, it usually had 12 songs, 12 or 13 songs. He did 3 a year. And of course, he's trying to find Anne Margaret. He's been looking for her all night. She drove away from the repair because they were making too much fun of her and telling her it's going to cost thousands of dollars. It's going to take 3 or 4 days. So now he finds her, and notice he's at the pool with a guitar in his hand.
Yeah.
Good morning. I've been looking for you all night.
Really? You must be desperate to find a motor that needs fixing.
Yeah. Well, what I really need is a swimming
I'm
lesson.
through with swimming lessons for today.
Great, why don't you and I go
I
out
have
somewhere?
other duties, see?
Hey. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me. She loves me. The lady loves me, and it shows in spite of the way she turns up her nose. I'm her ideal, her heart's desire. Under that eye, she's burning like fire. She'd like to cuddle up to me. She's playing hard to get. The lady loves me, but she doesn't know it yet.
So there's a song for, and at the end of the movie, I'll get to that at the end of the seminar. There's always an ending that's just perfect. So my new philosophy of life is one big seminar. And I started with the Viva Las Vegas. I'll tell you a story from Las Vegas. I was doing a seminar the next morning, and I decided to go down, not to the casino, but to the steakhouse. And it was a really nice steakhouse at a very nice hotel. And I looked at the menu and I saw a filet that looked good, but there was a sauce on another steak that I thought would be better. And I said to the waiter, when he came up to me, the server, I said, I have a special request. And he just looked at me and said, sir, before you ask, the answer is yes. And I said, wow. That's really cool that he said that. I said it to myself, but it wasn't the first time he'd used that line. I mean, he's had that line ready to go. And somebody said, I want a special request. Before you ask, the answer is yes. And you just remember stuff like that. It was a pre-memorized, pre-practiced line. It was ready to go in the situation when it was needed. So that was a waiter teaching me the importance of pre-memorized language. And for years, and this is the 80s and 90s, I was on the road 225 days a year, 15 years in a row, 10,125 plus meals in restaurants and airplanes. And that's the meal I remember. Just because of the treatment, not because the food was better than any other food I've ever had, just because of that guy. So this is Art Subject. His website is Business by Phone. His spells, I think I spelled it SOBCZAK is the way he spells it. And Art specializes on working with people who sell on the phone all day long. And of course, now we are all on Zoom all day long, and he's in his element. But he's a business by phone, and he's written a book called Smart Calling. And the thing I like about Art, this quote, you should never think about what you're going to say when it's coming out of your mouth. And too often we don't have an answer. And so and so, I'm lucky because I get to do the same speech over and over again. The National Speakers Association, the joke is it's easier to get a new audience than come up with a new speech. So just use the same speech, use the same stories, and it just flows out of you after a while. Now, I had a travel agent. Her name was Jerry, back when travel agents were a thing. And I'd always call her up, and I'd be stuck somewhere, and I called Jerry, and she'd always say, "This is Jerry. I can help you." She didn't say, "May I help you?" She said, "I can help you," and she got me out of some really interesting jams. But I always remembered that was the way. She just didn't do the cliche thing. "May I help you?" "No, I can help you, and I will help you." So Dale Carnegie calls it selective use of pre-memorized language. In the Dale Carnegie classes, they teach that you need to have that line for every situation, just like that waiter in Las Vegas, just like Elvis. Response modules, another way to put it. I don't know where I learned this, but it's just a response module. Again, a line for every situation. So they say this, you're going to say this, and it's just automatic. You're not thinking about it when it comes out of your mouth. You're ready, and it's just there. Okay, so some of you may remember this, probably Lou Vito has it. Chris Lytle presents How to Think on Your Feet Automatically. I used to sell that at the back of the room, and it had the answer to the radio's top 12 objections, and I would answer them. Somebody would say, "Your rates are too high." And then I would say, I understand, but at the same time, there's so much pressure on our inventory that there's nowhere we can go with the rates at this point. If this were January and a Tuesday in January, it might be a little more flexible. But right now, there's so much pressure on our inventory. And so that cassette is, and the other side, it had the 50 best things anybody ever said about radio. So you had that line, a car is a radio on wheels. You could always, people don't listen to the radio, they bathe in it. So I had a lot of quotes on there, and I found it. If anybody wants a copy, I have it on MP3 now. So if you don't have a cassette player, you could play it on your computer. Just let me know if you'd like it. Just send the How to Think on Your Feet audio. That was my second audio product that I ever made. Now there's a little next thing in your handout if you're following along. It's why I hate, excuse me, why I hate Q&A after 41 years on the road. And when somebody says, would you leave 15 minutes for questions and answers at our conference? I say, no, I will do an hour and then I'll stay as long as people want to talk to me, but I am not going to do Q&A, because Q&A, when you have whether if you're in a class of 50 or 150, it's always stump the trainer, stump the sales trainer. And they're going to talk about a client that probably shouldn't be calling on. It's always the toughest client. And it always starts out, Chris, I've got this one client, and then they go. And I just don't want to do that in front of a group, because I may not have the answer, but I usually do. Anyway, somebody reminded me of this, that I don't know where, I must have been in Colorado sometime, but this guy, he asked a question. And I took it. He said, I got this one client and she's a car dealer and she won't buy radio. Oh yeah. And she and her husband own the radio station that we compete with in town. What do I do? And I said, son, you don't have a sales problem. You've got a prospecting problem. You got to get somebody else in your pipeline, because she owns the other station. Why was she going to give you money? So anyway, those are the kinds of questions I got. So, all of you, I'll hang around if you want to talk after this is over. So these are questions, quips, quotes, questions, and comebacks. And so I want to just go through some of my favorites, tell you the situation where I might use them. You got places to write them down. They're still on page 1. But these are some of the things that I like. And I love truisms. And, Webster's online dictionary says a truism is an undoubted or self-evident truth. And usually it can be too obvious to mention, but usually when you say something that's truthful, people go like this. It rings true. They nod their head or they smile. And I like to start my seminars with truisms, but I also like to start, if somebody's resisting sales, I don't want to talk to a salesperson. Look, as long as you're in business, you're in sales. There's a story in my book about a dentist, and he's a kid I went to school with in Newark, Ohio. And I said, what's the biggest problem you have in dentistry? He says, sales. He said, they don't teach you at Ohio State, you need to sell a root canal. You need to sell a crown. You got to get people to believe they need this kind of treatment. And it's tough because they object, they put you off, they stall. And so as long as you're in business, you're in sales. You're always trying to persuade somebody. Maybe it's just you want to raise and you're not a salesperson, but you here's what I've done for the company. Here's how I'm helping you. As long as you're in business, you're in sales. Now, Lou, the last advertiser seminar I did was at your place. And it may be the last I ever do, but one of the things I always do when I start my seminar for advertisers, and just imagine this is a room full of people, they're coming in, radio stations invited them into the seminar, and this out-of-town expert's going to teach them how to do better advertising. And I'm there, and they're sort of, what's going to happen. And so I will always try to reduce the pressure and just sort of take the tension out of the room. So my line is, hey, first thing I say, Management's a series of interruptions which are constantly being interrupted by more interruptions. And people just go like this. And you can just see, you can feel it. The air goes out of the balloon, just everything's reduced pressure-wise. And then I say, and I want to thank you for choosing this opportunity to spend 3 uninterrupted hours to work on your business instead of in your business. So few of us get those uninterrupted hours to work on our business. So thanks for coming. And then boom, I'm off. So you can use lines like this that get people just to, yeah, you're right. And then it sort of breaks the ice. Radio doesn't work. I tried radio, it doesn't work. Of course, and it's the offer you make. And I've said to people, in fact, at that seminar, I say, folks, I know the radio station brought you here, but radio doesn't work. It's the offer you make to the audience that works or doesn't work. It's the offer. It's the branding message. That's what works or doesn't work. And it's the same. Newspaper doesn't work. It's the offer you make to the readership. So if there is a newspaper in your market anymore. I love this line. Advertising is multiplied salesmanship. That's Claude Hopkins' quote. His book is My Life in Advertising and Scientific Advertising, molded into 2 books. Claude Hopkins is the guy that every internet entrepreneur reads. He invented A/B testing. He wrote his book in 1929. Advertising is multiplied salesmanship. And so I like people to say, I'm selling sales calls. So I'm not selling advertising. I'm selling you sales calls. There's 4 people in your dealership. We got 5,000 people in our audience. You could be selling cars to them, selling them on coming into your dealership instead of the 15 other dealerships that they could be going to. So I'm selling sales calls. And the reason I like that is people don't want to advertise, but they know they got to be making more sales calls. There's no sales manager has ever said to you, you're making too many calls. Slow down a little bit. So sell me sales calls. People respond to needs, not to ads. Nobody mentioned my ad. Well, people respond to needs, not to ads. So that's one of those things, because somebody's going to say, nobody mentioned my ad. I've been advertising. Nobody's told me they heard me on the radio. People respond to needs, not to ads. How's business? Truth is better than creativity. A great quote from David Ogilvy. Write me. I want a creative commercial, Chris. Look, truth is better than creativity. Truth rings true. When we put something truthful on, it'll be better than putting something clever. And so usually when people say, and I don't know when the last time I talked about this was, but advertisers think and talk in cliches. So tell me about your business. We have really good people. We service what we sell. And of course, if you can say, well, I'd hope so, then it's probably not something you want to put in the ad. So anytime people say, here's what we do, I said, well, tell me a story about that. And I'll put the story in the commercial, not the cliche. This is Phil M. Jones. He's a British guy. Check him out on YouTube sometime. He's got some pretty good stuff on YouTube. Selling is earning the right to make a recommendation. And if you would say to that, so look, to me, selling is earning the right to make a recommendation. And I want to earn that right so I can bring you my ideas. Now, I don't want to talk to a rep. So this is, look, I want you to be able to say no to my ideas and my recommendations instead of just no to me and my station. Is that fair? Fair enough? You can add that. I don't think I put it in the notes, but fair enough is a really powerful thing because people do want to be fair. And there's some research that says if you say fair enough, you're more likely to get that hearing. I want you to be able to say no to my ideas and my recommendations instead of to me. Fair enough? Because they're going to reject you and resist you and not want to talk to you. But here's a way to counter that. So this is another one. When you start a meeting, there was a life insurance guy years ago, and he was pretty famous, but I forget his name now. But he said that a meeting, an appointment, is like the number one buying signal that people can give you. Because if they'll meet with you, they must need something, especially if it's life insurance. And of course, if it's radio, there's something going on. So I'm curious, why did you decide to meet with me today instead of last week or next month? Because they're going to tell you what went into that decision process, and you're going to know why they're meeting with you and what may motivate them to do more. And you can finish that with what's going on. What's going on? Why did you decide to meet with me today instead of last week or next month? But something happened. There's always a triggering event that will make somebody want to sit down with you. They're worried about something. They got a new product. Something's going on. And then, one of the great one-word answers to any objection. When someone says anything, your rates are too high. Oh, and you just look at them like you want to get more information. So I never answer the first objection. I say, oh, or tell me more, or anything besides, no, they're not, because you want to get more information on the table before you start answering objections. And I like this line, Al, do I understand your business? And in my, if you look on instant sales training, there's a video on making better presentations in the video training section. And I'm making a presentation to Al Rather, who's a leasing guy in Madison, Wisconsin. And I present the advertising balance sheet. Here's the strengths of your current situation. Here's the negatives. And then I say, Al, do I understand your business? And boy, if somebody says, yeah, you really do. Then you're really on your way to making the sale. It's easier to close when people know that you understand what they're trying to do and what their issues are. So do I understand your business is a good one. And people buy because we understand them, not because we make them understand our radio stations, our formats. So work toward that end. And the client says, well, send me a proposal. That I may have gone over this with some of you, but what do you want in your proposal? What do you want in your proposal? And I was trying to sell. I was doing a Zoom with somebody, and the guy said, "Send me a proposal." And I said, "What do you want in your proposal?" He said, "Well, I just want the quantities and pricing and terms." And I said, "So he said, I got to have something to walk up the hall to my CFO." And I said, "So it sounds like you're sold on this." He said, "I'm sold." I said, "So you need an index, or you need an invoice, not a proposal. Is that right?" He said, "Yeah, send me an invoice." So I saved all this time just by saying, "What do you want in your proposal?" And I'm kind of lazy, and I think that's a good thing. Not to bend over backwards for people. All right, so these are 3 magic phrases and 1 magic question from the second edition of the Accidental Salesperson. And 1, when you call someone and they call you back, I know it doesn't happen that much. So usually people say, "Well, thank you for returning my call," but you've got to say, "I was expecting your call." And nobody else is saying that. And it sounds like you're confident, you expect the call to be returned, and you deserve the call to be, so I was expecting your call. What do you want? Here's why I called you. And this is the way I work presentation. This is the way I work. People buy the way you sell before they buy what you sell. And if you don't have your "this is the way I work" presentation ironed out and memorized, you're missing the point, or you're missing a huge opportunity. So there on instant sales training, there's a little knowledge bite that's called "You need this presentation now more than ever." And it could be, "This is the way I work. To me, selling is earning the right to make a recommendation. I haven't done that yet, but I want to ask you some questions to see what you're trying to accomplish and see if I might be able to help you. And if I can, I'll come back with some recommendations, and you can say yes or no to that." Does that make sense? Or is that fair? Boom. So you're selling people on the way you sell before you sell them what you sell. People buy the way you sell before they buy what you sow. So important. In preparing for this meeting, Number one complaint buyers have about sellers is lack of preparation. So if you did anything to prepare, I hit your website. I read your the trade association website, your trade association. I went to the Auto Laundry News website. If you're calling on a car wash, I went to the International Car Wash Association website. I found 3 articles about how people are marketing their car washes, and I thought you might want to just know about this. So in preparing for this meeting, I did a few things. Even if it's 15 minutes, market the preparation before you market your stations. And this is the magic question. Are you willing to work with me on a calendar basis? Someone says, I'm interested, call me next week. And the first thing I say is, are you willing to work with me on a calendar basis? I'll call you next week. I can call you Tuesday at 11:30. Can you get that on your calendar? No, just call me. Because all of us have said, okay, I'll call you next week. And some of us have called next week and whoever answers the phone says, oh, he's on vacation this week. Well, he told me to call him. No, he's on vacation. Or they never take your call. They don't return your email. So real prospects engage with you. They'll put you on the calendar for a next step. Information seekers, or what we used to call suspects, will hide from you and make you chase them down. So if someone will put you on a calendar, they're engaged, and you have a much better chance of selling them, and you won't get ghosted so much. Okay. What is this? Oh, yeah. Send me your media kit. And the thing that you do when someone says, send me a media kit, you gasp. Can we just practice it? You don't need to turn on your mics, but 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And when someone says, send out a media kit, of course, now you have a PDF, so you don't have to mail it, but you just say, we don't send out off-the-shelf media kits. I customize everything. And so what would you like in your media kit is pretty good. I skipped, for some reason I was out of order, but are you willing to work with a calendar basis is the last thing on that list. So I needed to rehearse this one more time. So this one is pretty good. And I'm stealing it from Anthony Iannarino, Anthony. And this is when someone says, I need to think it over. Is that still something that happens to you? I want to think about it. And so this is Anthony, and I've linked you to his YouTube video right there next to this. But this is what Anthony says about, I want to think it over. This is a response module that can be automatic if you just take, 45 minutes to memorize it. Oh yeah, when can I get back to you? You don't say that. Sure, you don't want people to think it over. You want to turn it into an objection instead of a stall. So this is what he says, memorize this. In the nicest way, you say, Mr. Customer, when someone tells you they need to think about it, it's usually for one of 2 reasons. 1, they're not interested. 2, they're interested, but they're not sure. Which is it? So you don't need to write all this down. You can get Anthony's video on YouTube. But he said, unfortunately, give me an answer. In most cases, the customers are going to say, no, it's Victor. What am I thinking about? Victor, sorry. No, Victor, I'm interested. I'm just not sure. So he's interested. So then when someone says they're interested, but they're not sure, it could be for one of 3 reasons. It's not a fit, the functionality is not there, or it's the finances. Is this a fit? Is there something about the product that needs to be different that it's not doing, or is it finances? And you walk through each one of them until you have enough information to handle the objection. So it's fit, finances, functionality. What is it? so you want that stall to become an objection so you can have a conversation about it and turn it around. This is brilliant stuff. You've got to memorize a few things, and that's a lot to memorize. So he ends this YouTube video. You got to love yourself enough not to accept I want to think about it as an acceptable reason to leave or disengage. If you leave because someone says I want to think about it, you're not doing your job. So this is a very important thing that will save people a lot of aggravation, a lot of time, shorten selling cycles, but you got to have it memorized. Pre-memorized language is your friend. Well, I don't want to sound scripted. Don't worry. Just sound normal. If you practice enough, everything Elvis ever said was scripted. He just delivered it. Sometimes he delivered it pretty good. Just a little comic relief. That's Eddie, my cat. He came 2 years ago on Saturday. 2 years ago, yeah. He was my wife's yoga instructor found him in the middle of the road. He was 5 weeks old. Now he's the biggest cat I have. All right. This guy, did a TED talk, and it's 3 words that'll change your life. You could Google that. I think, did I leave you the, I didn't leave you the link for that, but you can Google it. 3 words that will change your life. And he's a professor in college in Canada. And he said, when you're engaged in a conversation, when you lean forward, look at the person's eye and say, tell me more. Those are the 3 words that will change your life. Tell me more. That tells the person that what they're saying is important. It matters to you so much that you don't want to go on and tell your story. You don't want to distract them. You don't want to give them your 2 cents worth. And so often in sales, people get to talking, and then you hear something that you can turn into a sales pitch, and you just interrupt them and you don't let them finish. So if you could start saying, tell me more, it shows the client that you're really interested in what they're saying. You're not looking for your turn to talk right away. And everybody, I mean, Neil Rackham, who wrote Spin Selling, talks about the importance of not presenting first, letting people talk before you talk a lot. So that's pretty powerful. Tell me more. So he said, I asked my undergrads why they listen. They say, we listen to get information, and they're right. That's a good reason. But if that's the only reason you listen, once you have the information, you stop listening and you interrupt. But there's value to the speaker. When we listen, it allows them to express their thoughts, their feelings. It validates the speaker and lets them tell their story. It tells them that their story is important. When we listen, it allows the speaker to find solutions by talking, and allows us to celebrate the success of the speaker. It allows us to console them if they had setbacks. So just letting them get it off their chest and being a sounding board for people is so powerful. Tell me more. Those are the 3 words that will change your life. And then after that, then what happened next? And when you use that, it lets them continue their story, and it shows you're even more interested and not needing to interrupt them. I think the best compliment, this is not in your notes, this is extra, but the best compliment I ever got was when, as a sales trader, and you're out there, I was out there trying to sell some online training, and this guy was kind of, what's he going to do to me? He's kind of defensive, and people think he's a sales trainer, so what's he going to use on me? And I'm just trying to say, I want to model the way I like people to call on me. I think your people should talk to customers this way. So I was asking questions and listening. And about 35 minutes into this meeting, he said, you know what, Chris? You're not too slick. And he said, I kind of like you. And I said, wow, that's, you don't, as a sales trader, you don't want to be slick. You want to be just a good person. So what happened next? Good line. Okay. There are a lot of, I see some gray hair, but if you have young salespeople, the process comment is so critical, and it's like, you're having a pretty good meeting, and the client just sort of goes off somewhere, looks away from you, and you can't just keep pitching. You got to say, what happened back there? I lost you. Where did I lose you? And talk about the way you're working together for a minute, instead of just talking about the content of your presentation or asking more questions about their business. Where did I lose you? So anytime that you're in a meeting, there's environment. It's the room you're in. Is it too hot, too cold? And this, as a speaker, the last seminar I did was in Laurel, Mississippi last Wednesday at that hometown USA city, and the client, great people, but they started the session 11 o'clock because that's when the restaurant opened, and the restaurant had the meeting room in this little town. And so I was doing it. There was people waiting tables outside, clanking dishes, and it wasn't the best environment. But I've been worse. So there's environment, noise level, temperature. Then there's the content. That's the information I'm trying to get across. And then there's the process, how we're working together. And in a seminar, you can say, well, some people, they're getting antsy, they're yawning, they're looking. You say maybe they need to go to the bathroom. Okay, anybody need a break? So this is how we're working together. If they're antsy or need a break, then the content's not going to get through. And it's the same thing in a sales call. If it's a bad meeting room, if you're stuck behind the person's desk, or you're making the pitch at the cash register, it's not the same as being in somebody's office or a conference room. So I always try to read the room. How are we working together? I want to be in front of the room with the visual aid, or it could be the slide thing. I want to be beside my visual aids whenever possible. So that's the content, the process, the environment. I want to try to control the room and make it mine when I'm there. You can't always do it. If you can get people on your turf, it's always good too. So I'm calling this, whose subject line is this anyway? And I thought I'd give you 3 of the tools that I use. And I put the links to all these. But one of the subjectline.com is a free service, and you just have to give me your email, and sometimes I'll promote a webinar. But look at this thing. So if you put just checking in or just following up on your email subject line, here's the grade, 72 points. So it gives you a little analysis of that. But if I put in a different thing, I put quick question in, there's 100%. So it's more likely you get open, then they tell you why, why you lost points, how you could gain points. And so I use subjectline.com weekly, and it's helped me a lot. This one is called Advanced Marketing Institute. And this is my desktop, and I'm going to open Advanced, and it's a headline analyzer. So if you're writing copy, remember when you used to be thin? So I was writing stuff from Plan Z Diet, 71%. And that's, and you know what, if you say, now that spring is in the air, that's 0. So, so you can, this is they grade it spiritual, emotional, intellectual, and tell you what your score is. And so it's a pretty cool. Do I have another one? Oh yeah, here it is. For all your diet and weight loss needs. So it's 12%. So I want to get 70%, and you want to get 30 or 40%. It takes a while to get 70%. But if you remember when you used to be thin, and boy, that's a powerful headline. So there's that. And then the Hemingway app. Is everybody using a Hemingway app? And all you do is you drop your copy or whatever you're writing into the Hemingway app. It's free. And it says, oh, that sentence is a little hard to read. the yellows is hard to read. You could have done it, but this is the ice storm sale ad, Lou. So all the radio. So I wrote this in 10 minutes, but it's grade 5. It's 156 words, and it tells you how to make your writing better. So it's kind of an artificial intelligence thing, but I love it, and I take some of what Sarah Zola does and put it in there and just edit it and make it a little better and a little more concise. So those are 3 tools that'll make your language a little better. So this guy, Michael Pantalone, wrote Instant Influence, how to get anyone to do anything fast. It's the only motivational approach scientifically proven to succeed in less than 7 minutes. I had a look at it. And he's all over YouTube if you want to check him out. But Daniel Pink, if you look up top, he wrote a rare book that's both practical and profound. And Pink also wrote To Sell is Human. And that's where I first heard about this book. But Michael does what's called motivational interviewing. And he uses it to get drug addicts to go to treatment. So if you think it's hard to sell advertising, then think about how hard it is to get an addict to go to get a treatment. But his line is, why might you decide to do this? Why might you decide to change? You're not saying, why don't you change? You're saying, why might you decide to do this, which gives them full autonomy over the decision. You're not trying to persuade, convince. You're trying to get them to talk about why they might decide to change and what their motivation for change would be. Works with clients, prospects, drug addicts. So using the word might tells them you can't make them do anything. It's their decision. The tension comes down. Why might you decide to do this? So he calls it AIR. It's autonomy, inquiry, and reflection. I don't know if I put that in the notes or not. Autonomy, inquiry, and reflection. So there it is. And his line, we need to surface people's own reasons for doing something. When they articulate those reasons, here's what happens. They believe those reasons more deeply, and they're more ready to act. So if they don't articulate why they might do it, it's harder for you to persuade them. They'll do them for their reasons, not yours. You see, because you're acknowledging their answer and not trying to persuade them, they are going to tell you things they like about what they've already heard from you. And you can build on those things and continue the conversation. We tend to think that persuasion is something we do to a person. Rather, social science tells us that persuasion is something people do to themselves. And if you think about the ones that you close and the ones that you lose, if people are, know why they're doing something and have their own reasons, they're more likely to do it. So I thought that was powerful. And, back in the day, this is 42 or 3 years ago, we had the 1 to 10 close. Jane, on a scale of 1 to 10, and 1 means you're not ready at all, and 10 means you're ready now. How ready are you to start this campaign? How ready are you to implement this recommendation? Whatever you say. And well, it's Chris, right now I'm just a 4. And what I used to do, because I thought this was the right thing to do. Well, thanks, Jen. I appreciate that. What would have to happen for me to move you up to a 10? And now you don't have to say that. You just say, that's what I used to say. I'm curious, Jane, why didn't you pick a lower number? Because if I try to persuade her to get to, she's going to resist. But I say, why didn't you pick a lower number? Well, I know I got to do something. I got the new competitor in town, just struggling with the copy, the creative, the price, so now she talks about what she's motivated, why she might do it, why she didn't give you a lower number, and you build on that. So you gave her autonomy. Now you inquire, and then you can reflect on what she said, and this is just powerful stuff I wish I'd have had when I was 23. So there's that. So life is like one big Elvis Presley movie. And that was a speech. I thought I would get this done in 45 minutes. I almost did. But you know, there's a line for every situation. There's a song for every situation. And when you run out of lines and songs, you've already won the heart of Anne Margaret. And you get married. Plus, you've won the race at Las Vegas Speedway. You marry Anne Margaret and you roll the credits.
Bright light city, gonna set my soul on fire. Got a whole lot of money that's ready to burn, so get those stakes up higher. There's 1,000 pretty women waiting out there. They're all living the devil may care, and I'm just a devil with love to spare. So viva Las Vegas, viva, viva Las Vegas.
That make you want to shave your chest and get a low-cut shirt, I'll tell you. All right. And you know what? That was my speech, and I did 20 minutes in front of the speech class. I got an A-. And the speech, Professor D.D. Peters said, "You can't be serious." And I said, "Oh, yes, I can." So, hey, thanks, everyone. If anybody wants to chat, I'm here. If you got any questions or you just want to comment on takeaways, that would be great too. So come on back. Turn on your mics, or we can all say goodbye too. Liza, is it Liza or Lisa?
It's Lisa.
Lisa, where are you? Are you in Savannah too?
No, I live in Oregon.
Oregon?
Yep.
Cool. See, who do you work with?
I work with Wolf Boom with Jim.
Oh, yeah. But you're in Oregon.
Yep.
Got it. You're on vacation?
No, I work remote. I used to live in Indiana, and then I moved here, and I now work remote.
That's cool. Selling in Indiana from Oregon.
Yep.
And it's Oregon, not Oregon. Oregon.
That's right.
Are you near Bend?
We're about an hour and a half to 2 hours from Bend.
Are you in Portland?
2 hours south of Portland. We're in Eugene.
Oh, Eugene. That's where, yeah. We've got a radio partner there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, I got a question for Lisa. Lisa, how do you sell? Are you on the phone, just phone selling, or are you doing actual large presentations via some other way?
So it's phone, email, Zoom, and then I usually fly back once a quarter just to do those face-to-face visits with customers.
And were you a face-to-face seller in Indiana before? You said you were?
100% I was.
You're
So
billing
it was tough to transition into this.
So how has your billing been since then?
It's good.
It hasn't gone down any?
Nope.
Man, I wonder why Jay doesn't talk about that. He's keeping you a secret.
Well,
Well,
Lisa was here for a while, and then she took off, and you took like 3 months off, I think.
I did.
And then it slowly ramped back up is the way it's worked. She was so good, we hated to lose her because it's tough to find good people. And we said, let's see if we can't make this work and do something with it. I don't know that I would do it with another salesperson other than Lisa.
Now, the 3 hour difference is a big thing. 3 hours is a big, you have to get up early in the morning.
I start at 6 a.m. here.
It's only 2 hours. It's only 2 hours for her, Lou.
Oh, yeah. No, wait a minute. No,
It's
Indiana,
3 hours.
Three?
Yeah,
Oh, is India?
Chris.
Now, Indiana never changes times, right?
No, they changed.
Oh, we changed now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're on Eastern time. I don't know why it seems like we should be more Chicago than New York, but they got us.
Yeah.
That is really.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey, Lou, you've seen everything I've ever done. What's your takeaway besides so you can sell radio remotely, which is true?
Oh, that is pretty good. That's a big takeaway. What are you talking about? And I want to know if I can get a, this is sexist, but I wonder if I can get a chick like Elvis did in that movie. If I do some of those things. Holy cow. You know, I a lot of this stuff is review, but I really like your free tools too at the end. That is completely new to me on that Hemingway editor.
Mm-hmm.
And the other American marketing one. Now I use subject line, but the other ones are really good. And I, you know, every time I listen to Chris, it's like you hear stuff that you knew, but you forgot, or or you need to tell your salespeople again. So what I plan to do is go back and get your archive one and cut out some stuff and condense it to like 20 minutes. Cause that's about the attention span of our, of our salespeople. So that's what I'm.
Well, that's the whole point of instant sales training is that, and you know, the thing about instant sales training is one of the things that inspired it was somebody came up to me after a radio advertising bureau marketing leadership conference, and I'd done a standing room only talk and I nailed it. And the guy said, that was a good talk, but this is the seventh guy that shook my hand. He said, I learned more at the bar after these things from many of you speakers. I said, really? I said, tell me more. And he said, well, that's when my partner and I compare notes. He's gone to some seminars. I've gone to some seminars, and we see what we think we learned and we talk about it. And then we say, what can we take back? And how many things can we take back and try to get our salespeople to do? So we try to pick the 2 or 3 best ideas and go back and implement them, but we can't implement everything. So it's nice to get little or smaller doses of content, a little bit of discussion about it, and then carry on. So that's the philosophy behind that. Morgan, how you doing?
Excellent.
What's your takeaway from today?
Well, I really like when you give the, objection and an answer to things, because I just kind of store those in a bank, and then customer says something that reminds me of it, I'm just like, pull it out and use it. I would also echo what some other people said. I mean, the subject line app, the Hemingway one looks very interesting to me. Sometimes particularly, I mean, I do sales and news gathering. So that one in particular is very useful. And I mean, there's a lot of crossover in both, selling someone on an ad or convincing them to do an interview, right?
Yeah, you got to ask good questions and build trust and all that. That's all that stuff.
Precisely. Yeah.
I don't know who's left.
Chris, on the quick question, that's really good the first time, but you can't keep doing it over and over again because the client catches on to that.
No, and
it does that over and over again. It's like,
yeah, there's another line that I got. There's another knowledge bite on instant sales training. It's called two magic emails you can use now. I think it's called, and there's another guy that had a magic email, and his magic email is closing the loop. And like I'm going to use that on LinkedIn because I got a prospect on LinkedIn that she was threatening to buy instant sales training. And you put closing the loop. You seemed interested when I talked to you last time, but I haven't heard from you since. And I'm just going to assume that this is not going to happen. But if it is, let me know, and we can rev it up again. But looks like you've gone another direction. And so that's another way to get people to respond to you, to tell you, to quit ghosting you at least, and to make a decision and tell you no, or maybe revive the sale. So there is another thing besides quick question, and play around with. But Lou, also you can use that American Management Institute to do headlines, to do subject lines too, and you can write a little more emotional or intellectual things, but they still, when you do a subject line, they should be 4 or 5 words at the most.
Is anyone on chat?
Bert looks like he's in he's got a shovel there. That's a little frightening.
Oh, you don't know what happened to the last guy who asked about the shovel, Chris. So we'll just move on. groundbreaking for the New Jersey Hall of Fame some years ago.
Oh, yeah. Good.
Nice little keepsake.
Is Norm on the call?
He was like down that way, I think. Yeah.
I just can't see everybody, I guess. I've got a little limited range here. Well, I'm glad he's on there too. So,
Yeah, always great information, of course. Thanks so much.
thanks for being on. I'm going to call it a day unless anybody has anything else. Thank you,
Hey,
Lou.
Lou, you mentioned Chat GPT.
Yeah.
I use it quite often. The one thing I've noticed, if I tell it to put a 30-second commercial, it prints it way long. So I've cut it down to like 25 seconds, but it's done some amazing copies for me.
I use it too.
Yeah.
I was sitting around last night and I asked it to write a poem about me. It was terrible. Write a poem about the sales trainer, Chris Lila. It was awful, but
You want to share it?
no, I don't have it.
For a haiku next time. Let's see what it
You could
comes up
ask
with.
it to do the same thing. Well, I'm glad the groundbreaking was that today or is this just
Some years ago. Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a long time coming, but we still don't have a building, but we broke ground on it.
It's a trophy show. Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks for being on.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.